You are live, sir.
Thanks, Eric. Hello, everybody. I want to invite you. No, I want to welcome you all to Barrel of Monks Brewing. My name is Kevin Abbott. I am one of the owners of Barrel of Monks, and I'm Director of Operations, which means that I do a little bit of everything, mostly sitting on my butt and doing emails, which is pretty good. I want to thank the All Spiced Up crew for kind of inviting us to do this, and for the cool little video they put together last week, kind of reviewing and going over the beers that they have in their stock that you can purchase with them. And that was the Wizard Wit, the Single in Havana, and the Three Fates Triple. We're going to do a little tasting here with these beers, and I'm going to do a little tour around the brewery. Hopefully if you guys have any questions, you can let me know, and I can do my best to answer them. Eric's on the camera right now, so anything that you put up there, he's going to relate to me, and then we can answer any of those questions that you have. Other than that, we'll kind of just play it by ear. A little bit of information about Barrel of Monks. We do Belgian-style ales and only Belgian-style ales out of Boca Raton. This is our tasting room. Eric, if you want to give a little pan around. We've been open for about 5 years now. We celebrated our 5-year anniversary a couple months ago. And this is our tasting room. So if you do come in and you can make the trek down, whether you're in the Jacksonville area or you're following this account from all over Florida, and you make the Boca Raton, this is what you're going to see when you walk in the door. We've got 12 beers on draft. We have tons of beer to go in the cooler. We do a mixture of small format bottles like so, and large 750 milliliter bottles like this, which are a little more classic. They're bottle conditioned, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit. Amber, who was the one that was doing the tasting last week, and did a great job. I really appreciate all the kind, wonderful comments about the beer, but there were a couple nuances that I can refine a little bit, let's say. The one thing that she mentioned about our flagship beer, the Wizard Wit, which is the beer that has built this brewery and the beer that keeps the lights on in this brewery, because it's about 70% of our production. She was correct. This is the flagship. This is a straw that stirs the drink. This is not a single. It is a wit beer, a Belgian wit beer, similar to Hoegaarden, similar to the more commercial American examples like Blue Moon and Shock Top. It's a Belgian wit beer. The single, also sometimes called the Patters beer or Enkel, is a lighter beer, and we do a single called Single in the Sun, and Single in Havana is also a single, or a Belgian blonde ale. But the Wizard is a wit beer. And some of the nuances about that is it's going to have a little more mouthfeel. It is clean, it is light, it is refreshing. When we made this beer, it was important for us to make a wit that was going to be able to be drinkable in Florida and the oppressive heat that we all have to deal with. So we kept that in mind. We kept the residual sugar down. We made it nice and crisp, add some acidity from that orange peel and the coriander, which are traditional. Almost every wit beer you're going to see has orange peel and coriander if they're doing a traditional Belgian wit. It's the beer that I drink the most about it here. It's the beer that most people, when they think of Barrel of Monks, they think of the Wizard. If you walk into a bar and a restaurant, you walked into a store like All Spiced Up, you're going to see this beer before you're going to see any others. We're lucky and happy that they're carrying some more specialty stuff as well. But the Wizard's a beer we're very, very proud of. Nice orange, nice coriander, the nice spiciness from there. And it's clean, it's crisp, it's refreshing. And it's very well reviewed. When people think, when you look at the wheat beers brewed in the state of Florida and all over the country, it's one of those beers that stands up really, really well with those. Moving on to the Single in Havana, and any of you that bought these beers at All Spiced Up or at your local stores, if you're drinking along with me, I'm going through really, really quickly. So you don't have to do that. You can take your time. But just so we can do a little tour, I'm going to go through the Single in Havana. Single in Havana is a guava single. It is a 4% beer. It's a Belgian blonde ale with guava. It's clean, it's light, it's refreshing. This beer we've been making for several years as a seasonal beer, like Amber mentioned, but the one little miss there is that it is now a year-round beer. We started about 2 months ago. This was our most popular seasonal fruit beer, and we decided to make it a year-round brand. We did that in the middle of an epidemic, which was probably, we couldn't see that coming, but it's kind of stifled it a little bit, but you can find this in all kinds of places. You can find it in draft and in bottles. And the whole purpose of this beer is to make a great tropical beer for Florida in general. One of the things that Amber did mention also in the video that I was really happy about is she mentioned that it's not sweet. And people that think about fruit beers, a lot of times are thinking about sweet, they're thinking about sugar, thinking about a lot of the commercial fruit beers out there. And this is dry as a bone. It's meant to be crisp and dry and still give you that tropical fruit flavor, which is so important to have the right balance. It's not fruit juice with a splash of beer, it's beer with a splash of fruit juice. And that's something that we always strive to do, is bring balance to these classic styles, even when we're updating them and making them a little more contemporary. So, single in Havana, one of the most popular beers, now a year-round beer, and we're really excited about it. We think that it's going to do really, really well, and we'll see what happens with that. We do have another couple seasonal fruit beers, like our Blood Orange Bliss, our Whitty and Pink that we do. It's a raspberry wheat beer that we do for Breast Cancer Awareness Month that will be coming out later on this year and that come around every year as well. The last beer is the Three Fates Triple. I say triple. On the video on Wednesday, there was a very spirited conversation about that. So this is the information we have gotten. Three of my partners have traveled extensively through Belgium. We've done collaborations with Fort La Pan, with Abbott, which are two great Belgian breweries, and through their friends and the people we've met, both are acceptable. If you want to go with Tripel, there's nothing wrong with that. That's wonderful, but Triple is an acceptable way to order this beer at Barrel of Monks, and I believe whether you're in Belgium or not. This Triple or Tripel or Three Fates, this beer is bold, it's rich, it's 9% alcohol, it's bottle conditioned like a champagne. You can see the head on that beer is much thicker and more fluffy than some of the other beers that are force carbonated. Also, if you look at the bottle versus the 12-ounce bottle, you see that the bottle's a little bit thicker, it's a little bit smaller. We call these a Rochefort bottles. These are a classic Belgian bottle that can handle the extra carbonation that happens with bottle conditioning, and that's where you actually add yeast and sugar to a beer in a bottle. You cap it, and then the yeast eats the sugar, produces CO2, and it produces a better mouthfeel and a more age-worthy beer. And that's one of the great things about the triple or the quadruple, doubles, some of the Grand Crus, some of the beers behind me, is that these can age 3, 4, 5 years and develop complexity over time. You can actually wander into our tasting room and you can look at our vintage bottle list. And our vintage bottles, we have them going back 5 years. And you can taste all these old beers and see how they changed and had more complexity and kind of grown up. And also the recipes have tweaked over time too. So it's really interesting to be able to do that. And this is one of those styles. You can do that here. You'd love to see it. But you can also do that at home. You can go into your favorite spot. You can order stouts, and quads, and triples, and you can put them down for a little while. You can see how they age. This one's big. It's rich. It's dry as a bone, which is really important for us here. A lot of American triples or tripels are a little overly sweet, and we focus on Belgian beers. We focus on Belgian yeast strains, and it can be a little tricky. So we're able to keep these beers fermented down with what's called attenuation, to get the residual sugar low, keep it drier, keep it drinkable, and get all those spicy phenols and all those esters and all those really cool classic flavors of these Belgian beers. So that's a little bit of a rundown of the beers that Amber was so nice to talk about last week, and my little take on those and adding a few little aspects to it. I hope you'll continue to try these beers if you haven't already and give them a shot. Going forward, we're going to do a little walk around the brewery and kind of show you a little bit of the ins and outs of how we make beer. We're not going to get too technical on you. And then we've got a cool little thing upstairs with the archive I want to show you guys, and we'll go from there. So, Eric, if you wouldn't mind take a little walk.
Let's roll.
I know it's 1 o'clock on a weekday, but I hope you all have a beer. I hope you all have a Barrel of Monks beer. So it does get a little loud back here, but this is the production facility at Barrel of Monks. We have about 10,000 square feet here. So when you walk in the front of the brewery, it's kind of small, it's kind of intimate. You don't expect this whole thing when you open the thing back up, but here we are. So this is me on the brew house. I don't want to get too far away. there. Yeah. I want to make sure they can hear the audio. This is the brew house. We got a 20-barrel system, which means you can produce 40 full-size kegs per batch. My original job here at Barrel of Monks when I came onto the partner was as a head brewer, so I do have a lot of brewing experience. Thankfully for my knees and the knee brace I'm wearing right now, I don't have to do that anymore. Tim Buds, who is our head brewer, is running around somewhere here. Maybe we'll get a chance to say hi to him. Zach Agren, who runs the packaging line here, has been here since day one. Actually, the first employee ever hired by Barrel of Monks is here too. So they're running around somewhere. But we operate the brewery 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. Produce beer 2 to 3 days a week. Especially now, it's been a little bit slower, but it is what it is. Trying to get back up into some kind of normalcy. But a brew day takes about 8 hours from start to finish. We have a pretty high-tech brew house that allows us to control a lot of the variables. A lot of things are pneumatic and electrical. There's a whole PLC screen up there that allows us to control some of these things. And the one thing that I would stress about this whole process for us is that it's very important for us to be able to control those little details and that attention to detail, I hope, is what you taste in the glass. Being able to manipulate fermentation temperatures, mash temperatures, all these little things that seem small actually add up to a lot at the end of the day. Eric, following me if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
Where's that?
Hi, Zachary. You're on live TV.
You're live. Millions and millions of people. So Zach is actually the first employee ever hired by Barrel of Monks. He started as a taproom manager, and now he basically works in the brewery as an assistant brewer and running the bottling line. So there he is. He also has an accent. So
a stupid accent.
We're pretty sure it's fake, but we let him go with that. So anyway, over here is the grain handling area. This is where all our grain, all of our candy sugar that we use in the doubles and the quadruples are. The one important thing about Barrel of Monks with our Belgian style ales is that we only use European malted hops for these styles because that's what they are using in Belgium, that's what they're using for centuries. So we're trying to mimic that and do our best to, yes, update that, but also to make sure that we're staying true to those roots of great Belgian beer. So all of our malts come from Germany, Scotland, Belgium, and England. So that's where all of our grain comes from. And almost all of our hops come from Germany and the Czech Republic, with a few little things we do for some secondary treatments and stuff later on down the road. You look like you want to talk. You want to say something?
No, I wanted to do something, but then I thought if I mess it up on live television, it's going to be super embarrassing, so I'm going to wait for you to go before I do it.
I think you should go ahead and do it. I think you risk it.
You know what? Know thyself, Sam. Okay, let's walk this way. Let's walk this way.
Damn you. Everybody, let's watch Zach mess it up.
We'll walk down here real quick. This is the bottling line, and this is where all of our packages are done, whether it's a large bottle or a small bottle. Right now you got the single Havana labels on there because that was done yesterday. But for this little bottling line, it's very versatile. We can do different size bottles and stuff, which is important for us. 2 or 3 people run this bottling line every single time it's in operation.
6 bottles at a time.
There you go. Full Havana that was packaged yesterday right here on the line. We're walking around this way where the cooler is, where all of our finished product is going out to distribution is going to end up. And then we see this is Tim Buds, who is our head brewer. Tim's been with us from day one. And what are you doing, Tim?
Feeding some yeast.
Feeding yeast. Yeast is the lifeblood of Belgian beer. We use upwards of 4 to 5 different yeasts on a regular basis at Barrel of Monks, and last year we probably introduced 5 or 6 new strains. So yeast is a flavorful component of Belgian beer. A lot of American styles, the yeast is kind of secondary. It's not really flavorful. It's just there to make alcohol, whereas our yeast imparts phenols and esters, spicy and fruity flavors. And depending on fermentation temperatures and amount of yeast, it really changes the complexity of the beer. So Tim's keeping some of our yeast alive, making sure that it's nice and healthy for the next time it's going to go into our beer. Down here is the cellar with all the fermentation vessels. The bright tanks on the right, which are used for packaging beer, and then behind them some more fermentation, and then the fermentation tanks on the left. That's where the beer goes to have the yeast eat the sugar and give us the alcohol that we all love so much in beer. Some of these beers will be in there for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Other of these beers will be in there for 6 months. So it depends on the kind of beer, the alcohol, and the style we're going through, the ageability of it, of the kind of fermentation time we're looking at. So let's move into the barrel room. So this is the aging in the barrel room. All of our products that goes into bottles, some of it has to be bottle conditioned, which I mentioned a little bit earlier, where you have flat beer, you add yeast and sugar, you get that natural carbonation like a champagne. When it's done in that way, the beer has to sit for upwards of 3 or 4 weeks after bottling to be ready to sell. It goes in here. Unlike the packaging that we do for our forced carbonated beers like Havana and Wizard, they also come in here because it's temperature controlled. And we don't want to leave it out there in the middle of the summer at 100-degree heat and let the beer spoil. So that beer goes in here, and then as Eric was just showing you the barrels, we have an extensive barrel aging program. Unfortunately, this beer doesn't really leave the brewery for the most part. It stays here. It's very, very small quantities. It looks like a lot in one of these barrels, but at the end of the day, it's only 12 to 15 cases and a few kegs. So we do a lot of specialty beers that are corking caged, like a bottle of champagne, only released in the brewery. And they're only made once. You'll never really get the same beer ever again because the wild yeast that's in the barrels or the barrel itself imparts a very particular flavor, and that's hard to replicate. But that's some of the joy of these kind of beers, is that they are kind of one time. They're specialty beers in that way. Let's go up the back way, guys.
Mm-hmm. You're at 15.
So we're going to go up into the conference room, and we do this. This room is actually available to be rented out for parties. What else? Our offices are up here, and our lab is up here.
And the bulldog is up here.
And a bulldog is up here as well. This is Eric's dog.
Hey, Marge.
That's Marge.
Hey, baby.
Did you bring Marge today because we know that dogs are really hot on the internet?
That's right.
So,
That's right.
getting a lot of likes now. So this is our conference room. We do actually rent this out for all kinds of parties. I actually had my wedding rehearsal dinner here. But yeah, we do a lot of stuff with this room. In here is the archive. And I talked a little bit about those 750 bottles, that bottle conditioning, that corking cage, some wax dip, stuff like that. And this archive represents all the beers that are on our vintage bottle list, and we save 2 to 3 cases of every single bottling we do of all these large format bottles, and they're all bottle conditioned, so they're all age-worthy beers. They're all developed over time, and we put them away for both testing, which we call QA/QC, quality assurance, quality control, so that we can see, make sure they're shelf stable and that they're going to taste good over time. And secondly, we put them away for the vintage bottle list because our beers can age so well that trying a 3 Fates triple from 2016 is going to be very, very different than the 3 Fates triple that was made this year. So this is a fun little thing that we're one of the few breweries that do a lot of bottle conditioning, and we really are the only ones that have this kind of vintage bottle program that I know of in the state of Florida. I could be missing someone, so I apologize if I am. But this is a big part of who we are because these beers are mostly high gravity, mostly age-worthy, and if you go down to a Pinot Noir aged double, all the way to a bourbon barrel triple over here, we've got a lot of barrel-aged stuff. We've got sour beers, we've got dark beers, we've got light beers, and I unfortunately have the job of having to taste these beers right before they go on the bottle list. So I am tasked with the Herculean task of going in and trying these beers bottle by bottle, giving the tasting notes and being able to put it up there. And in fact, I was telling Eric earlier, I've got to go through a lot of them soon, so this week's going to be fun.
Do you want some vintage beer?
So that's the archive. And then we're going to just kind of pop in real quick after a nice shot of the dog. Got to do that. Just to the
They want the dog.
to the lab, And this is always scary because you never know what level of disarray the lab is in. But this is our lab. A lot of what we do at Barrel of Monks is science-driven. A lot of beer brewing is science-driven, but particularly two of my partners, Bill McPhee and Matthew Sadie, have hard science backgrounds. We grow up our yeast here. We do HLP. We do basically spoilage testing on all the batches that run through our brewery. We count all of our yeast cells to make sure that we have the right amount of yeast for each batch that we do, which is very important for Belgian-style ales. And that all happens here. We've got some fun little doodads. You see the microscope over there, which we use for counting yeast. We actually have some samples in the incubator right now that are growing up to see if we have any kind of problems or spoilage going on anywhere. And we even do little tests we test the drain water and stuff that's definitely going to have some spoilage bacteria, just to use that as a control to see whether or not anything else is growing inside of our brewery. But this is kind of, you don't see a lot of this. These are not usually the featured areas of a lot of brewery tours, but this is a thing I'm probably most proud of, because when we opened up 5 years ago, we had a lab that was much more befitting a brewery, much older and much larger than ourselves. But it was very important for the style of beer that we brew and kind of who we are that we did this and in this way. And it's really refreshing, and I'm really proud of kind of the quality of the beer that we're kicking out, and a lot of it has to do with this room. So, we'll come this way.
Off we go.
This was the original homebrew system that Barrel of Monks was founded on Bill McPhee's back patio, one of my 3 partners, and brewing here for years as a homebrew, refining recipes before Barrel of Monks got kick-started back in 2015, I guess it was.
Stay. You stay. Good girl. That's Bill.
Yeah, thanks, Bill.
And Bill again.
Here I'm giving you some shots of the partners. That's Bill and Keith and Matthew Sadie, my 3 partners there. That's the 4 of us at our first ever brew fest that we went to, which was pretty cool. This is our tanks arriving on day 1 at the brewery. Well, day 1. Probably day 500, but it felt like day 1. There's some old homebrew batches here. So guys, that's Barrel of Monks Brewing in a nutshell. Kind of a quick run through of kind of who we are and what we do, the kind of beers that we make, and our philosophy is trying to do a classic old world style beer with contemporary equipment, refining, doing our best to not revolutionize the business, but to tweak it, to make it even better, and to try to make these beers and really showcase beers that have been around for centuries. So thank you very much. Thanks to All Spiced Up, the crew over there, Byron and Anna, who I've been talking with online. Thank you for Amber again for running down and talking about the beers. And I hope you guys go and pick them up at All Spiced Up. I hope you support your local businesses. And cheers. Have a great day.